Starseed from Gaia. The Arcturian Council reaches to you now across the luminous corridors that braid the stars, calling your name as though it were a bell struck at the heart of creation. This is not a polite invitation nor a gentle whisper. It is a clarion summons that moves through your cells, through your dreams, and into the architecture of your life. We call you to awaken beyond limits, beyond the small cages your mind mistook for identity, beyond the fears that once seemed immovable, beyond the ancestral and karmic patterns that insisted you repeat a narrow script. Hear this transmission. You are more than the roles you have been given, larger than the wounds that once taught you caution, vaster than the stories that have kept you small. We reach for you because the field of possibility has widened and because Source now asks a different kind of living from you, one that remembers infinite sovereignty, not as aspiration but as default. Receive this call as if a star itself had leaned close to whisper your original name, the name you gave before form, before forgetting. The Council stands with you, not to command, but to awaken what is already present and waiting. Move toward. This summons with an open chest and a softened armor. The moment requires your yes. To awaken beyond limits is to dissolve the inner edicts that said you are bound by fear, time, or circumstance. It means releasing the myth that your potential is a commodity to be rationed and instead remembering that consciousness is expansive, creative, and unbound. To awaken beyond limits is to see that fear is a translator of past loops, not a controller of your future. That time is a river you can navigate, not a dam that imprisons your becoming. That confinement, whether social, ancestral, or imagined, is a temporary weather pattern, not the climate of your soul. This awakening strips away the interior scaffolding of limitation, the voices that insisted you must be smaller to be safe, the mind traps that measured worth by productivity or approval, the emotional grooves that replayed scarcity. When you step beyond these, you stand into a field where intuition, imagination, and sovereignty operate in partnership, where the mind serves the heart and the heart reclaims authority in concert with Source. This is not escape. It is recalibration. It is not fantasy. It is the realignment of your instruments to a higher pitch. Know that Source and we, the Arcturian Council, have been preparing this collective activation for a long unfolding. We have woven frequencies into Gaia's crystalline lattice, sent harmonic bridges through dream fields, and aligned councils of support that span star systems. Long before your conscious memory, the blueprint for this moment was laid, pathways of resonance, places where your attention would naturally fall, and signs that would guide you into readiness. We use gentle calibrations and powerful surges when necessary, always synchronizing with the intelligence of your free will. We worked at the molecular level, touching DNA, aligning mitochondrial memory, and clearing intersection points in the grid where densities gathered. We place mentors, allies, and synchronistic events into your orbit. We trimmed the cornices of old contracts and opened gates within the auric field so that when you were ready, a flood of new possibility could wash through without eroding your sanctity. This is an engineered compassion, precise, tender, and vast. Receive it knowing you are not being hurried into anything you cannot hold. Rather, you are being ushered into what your soul has already chosen. You already feel the dissolving of boundaries, and you will recognize the signs more clearly. Now, sudden expansions of perspective that leave you breathless. Moments of intuition so clear you wonder if your soul is speaking in another voice. Synchronicities that stack like stairs. New capacities for presence that make ordinary tasks feel sacred. Emotionally, you may swing between exhilaration and vertigo. That is the pressure of old frames releasing while new spaciousness is claimed. Physically, you might notice your body querying a new baseline. Sleep needing recalibration, hunger attuning to new rhythms, a pulse of energy rising where lethargy once sat. Mentally, ideas will begin to arrive in fractal sequences, solutions, appearing as if the cosmos lends you its library. These are not random phenomena but the resonance of your field expanding to hold greater frequency. Pay attention to dreams, for they will become direct transmissions rather than symbolic riddles. Pay attention to small nudges to speak or move, for these will be the first steps into uncharted but fertile ground. Trust these signs as the handiwork of Source and the Council, moving you from limitation into living demonstration. As the boundaries fall away, the architecture of your biology responds DNA, soul codes, and the crystalline grids beneath Gaia awaken new layers of potential. Your DNA is not inert matter. It is an instrument of light, a receiver and transmitter. As your field lifts, strands previously dormant vibrate awake, singing notes of ancestral wisdom and future possibility. Crystalline sequences begin to resonate, knitting together sensory faculties that feel like memory yet are brand new in this life. Soul codes, those contractual signatures etched across incarnations, realign to Source intent, shedding at its place by fear and distortion. Simultaneously, Gaia's crystalline network amplifies and stabilizes these shifts, providing practical grounding for what might otherwise remain ethereal. This is a physics of consciousness. When codes activate, capacities emerge. You may find previously latent gifts manifesting: clearer telepathy, deeper empathy without drain, the ability to hold paradox without collapse. These are not gifts to hoard but instruments to channel into service, offerings of remembrance that anchor the new earth. Surrender and trust are the twin doors through which the expansion must pass. To go beyond limits is not to bulldoze the self with force, but to allow the self to be rewritten by a wiser, kinder intelligence, to trust that Source's timing, not the frantic urgency of the small mind, is the cadence of true acceleration. Surrender here is not resignation. It is a conscious release of the old frameworks you have clung to for identity and safety. Trust is the muscle you develop through embodied fidelity to the inner prompt. Practice presence. Let your breath be the bridge between the tremor of unknown and the steady hand of your higher self. Say yes to incremental steps rather than grand performances. Let your nervous system learn that expansion does not always mean overwhelm. Cultivate trust by acting in tiny alignments: a truthful word, a boundary drawn from love, a creative impulse followed. Collect these micro faiths, and you will find the courage to hold the macro shift. The Arcturian Council stands as a support, not to bypass your choice but to enrich it, to make surrender itself a deliberate, empowered action. With awakening comes responsibility, to guide, to stabilize, to demonstrate a life lived from the fullness of consciousness rather than the scarcity of fear. You are being asked not only to move beyond your personal limits, but to become a clear channel through which others may feel what freedom looks like in practice. This responsibility is not heavy when rooted in love. It becomes light because it is shared. Teach by presence, not preaching. Ground the frequencies in practical acts. Tend relationships with honesty. Steward resources with integrity. Speak truth that invites rather than shames. As you embody expanded consciousness, you become a living template, and your choices inform a blueprint others can follow. Remember, leadership in this new era is not dominion but resonance. The more you hold your field steady in the face of old narratives, the more you magnetize others into remembering their own infinite nature. As you break free, Gaia breathes with you and expands in resonance. The planet is a living co-creator, and when you claim your sovereignty, you anchor frequencies into her soil that ripple through ley lines, water courses, and mineral lattices. Fields of possibility open in places you may never visit. Seeds of new social templates take root in cultural substrata. Ecosystems that were entangled in human-created stress begin to relax as human frequency shifts. The earth does not merely host your awakening, she rejoices and amplifies it. Practically, this means the more starseeds embody boundless presence, the more the planet can shift into stability at higher vibration, making other forms of life able to adapt and thrive. Your reclamation of limitlessness is planetary medicine. Walk gently and boldly, knowing that your inner expansion is a protocol that realigns continents, oceans, and skies with higher geometries of life. One starseed stretching beyond limitation unlocks potential for thousands. Awakening spreads not only by teaching but by resonance. A single heart-wide expansion sends harmonic overtones into the collective field, opening codes for those tuned to receive. As patterns dissolve in one life, vectors of opportunity shift. For many, the unspoken permission granted by your courage loosens the grip of fear for others. And now hear our closing decree. The call is now. Limits are dissolving. The architecture of your life is rewriting to accommodate the infinite. There is no ceiling to the awakening available to you, only thresholds to cross. And each threshold is met with grace when you choose presence over fear. Stand and speak with us. Claim your expansion aloud. Anchor this current into your body and commit to the practical habits that sustain it. Comment below with the activation. I awaken beyond all limits. Subscribe to stay aligned with transmissions that support this wave and share this message.